Hello and welcome to my little flight simulator series where I want to fly around the world in a Cessna 172. Yes, I want to do that. Obviously not in one tour because the fuel tank of the Cessna can't get us far enough. But with several stops. This first route is from Reykjavík to Vágar or something like that. I don't know how it's pronounced correctly, but maybe if you have people who know that they can tell me. I think it's the correct English pronunciation. In Danish or Faroe language, it's different. Anyway, here I'm starting up the Cessna. The computer is telling us something which I didn't listen to. Switching on all the lights and the pitot heat. I know it's not necessarily necessary, but it sometimes complains on the screen, so I just generally put it on. I don't know if there's something... Yeah, it is actually simulated. If it freezes, you don't see your speed. Anyway, I just switch it on. I don't think that it has any negative side effects, at least not any that were modeled. So I want to get started fairly quickly. So engine is running, everything is set. So I'll get to the runway. And there's lots of traffic here in the airport of Reykjavík. We're starting on a runway that's actually closed, but I thought that's the best runway for the Cessna, especially it's long enough. And there's this ambulance which is somehow stopping in the middle of the runway, I don't know why. Anyway, I'm just going around it and getting this Cessna up into the air. This Cessna is fully loaded regarding fuel, so it's at 100%, and there are 170 pounds on the pilot seat to just simulate the average pilot, I guess, and no other weights in this plane. Starting off nicely, power is good. I have real weather on, so that was the weather at the time of recording in Iceland. At least that's what the simulator wants to tell me. And making a right turn to Reykjavík so we can have a last look at the city before we head off to the Faroe Islands. And here we start seeing the center of Reykjavík. Unfortunately, there is no photogrammetry for Reykjavík yet, so we don't see the actual buildings that are there, but we can see the general shape of the city. There is the city center, looking nicely, especially this one very interesting church which you'll see in the center of the screen now. And leveling off at about 130, which is roughly the course that we'll be flying. Already setting autopilot because I actually forgot to set the GPS system. Forgot to set the direct course to the Faroe Islands. So I'm just setting the autopilot. At least heading and altitude speed won't change a lot if you leave the throttle, let's call it throttle, at a higher position. Cessna will always stay at around 110 knots. At least I've never seen it go a lot higher than that unless you're really pushing it or descending. And I also never see it being really below unless you give almost no gas. So here I'm fiddling around with the GPS system, trying to get the EKVG, which is Vágar. There it is. Enter. Direct course is set. It will appear on the right screen in a minute. And setting the heading. And letting the plane fly. You'll see the video in time-lapse most of the time because it's quite a long flight, and I already accelerated the simulator, but I'll again accelerate the video because it's still fairly slow, especially because it's a pretty long flight. I don't know what it would be real time, but with all the acceleration and stuff, in the end the flight for me was 40 minutes, and the video shouldn't be 40 minutes. I'll just interrupt from time to time if something interesting happens, and otherwise you'll see a time lapse, so have fun. And here I'm interrupting the first time. As you can see, I'm slightly deviating from the course because I saw all those mountains coming up ahead, and yes, somehow my computer or the simulator has trouble loading the scenery, which I don't understand because especially here it's mostly snow, so it's mostly white. So yeah, I don't know, that's the unoptimized Microsoft Flight Simulator for you. Anyway, luckily we didn't have to climb or descend, which I really try to avoid to save more fuel. I try to have it as efficient as possible. I also leaned the mixture, which I didn't comment beforehand, and yeah, I'm just trying to get to burn as little fuel as possible, as we have to fly quite a distance. And we'll need everything, every little drop that we have in the tank, in case that we have to deviate further, or I don't know, in case of an emergency. Interrupting again. So here I started increasing our flight level because I thought, well, it's probably a little bit more efficient as the air gets thinner. We then have a higher ground speed. I don't know what's the most efficient altitude to fly with the Cessna, especially at these temperatures, but we're not that high, so 4,000 feet should be fine to fly at. Also, I then realized that there were clouds coming up ahead, so it was quite a good correction, so we are not in the clouds, and also leaning the engine again, so we are as fuel efficient as possible, or at least as fuel efficient as I can get it. So after flying quite a while, I started seeing these dark clouds right here, which we're flying in between, or well, the lower clouds are actually still white, but the upper clouds are very dark. I started worrying a little bit, but I thought, well, the middle is still free, so if we're lucky, it may stay like this and not become a severe storm. At least I really hope that we are over the ocean and there everything is possible, especially as it's real weather. I don't know what's going on right there. But I just hope that it won't become very difficult, let's call it that way, that we could just fly through. And as I was thinking of that, I started seeing those structures there, which look fantastic, I have to say. I don't know if this actually looks like that in real life, but it looks like that in the simulator. It looks very cool, but scary also. I really didn't know what to do. Thought flying around could work. I mean, on the very right of the screen, we also see like a passage that is open. And on the left, it's also not too dense, but I didn't really want to deviate because we really have to use all the fuel we have the most efficient we can. We're slightly adjusting our course to stay in between the clouds and not fly into the clouds where we wouldn't have any visibility, which is not a problem when we're on autopilot and it shows us the terrain. And looking around, it's beautiful. I mean, look at the sunset there. Well, sunset, I call it that way. It's the beginning of a sunset. It's not really, the sun is still high, but it's this orange tone that really makes it look beautiful. But as it stayed like this, I was still confident. And then at some point I started seeing this. There were more and more clouds and there was no, well, tunnel, let's call it tunnel in between the clouds to fly through. I started seeing something there slightly to the right where I thought maybe we can get through without actually flying into the clouds. Also the lower clouds rised up or got thicker, so we see where the upper and the lower half merge. And I actually thought, well, let's actually ascend a little bit to 4,500 feet. Maybe it would make things better. And then on the left I saw that there was another little hole there to slip through the clouds and not actually fly directly into them. And I started slowing down the simulation because it's actually very... yeah, it's not ideal to adjust the heading, especially if you just slightly miss it, you're falling, your camera changes the zoom and everything, so it's a little bit cumbersome to adjust the heading, especially fast forward and with turbulence, and you can't hit the button there. So we were in the clouds for a second. I thought that's maybe it. We may find a lot of tunnels there. I just wanted any kind of passage to fly through, to not be in the clouds. Also to avoid any severe turbulence and whatever could happen if you fly into the clouds. I don't know what the conditions there are. Until now it was, well, okay, slight turbulence, but it was a very, yeah, the flight was pretty nice actually. A lot of trouble, and I really hoped it could stay that way, but so I flew right here and there's just no passage to fly through, so I thought, well, we'll dive into the clouds, and there we are already. It's really scary if you actually are flying and you're like slowly merging into the clouds. Especially if it's like this wall of clouds and like a thunderstorm, or, well, there's no thunder, but a storm or whatever this is. So I thought, as we're in the clouds, I'll just adjust the heading to match our course and not lose any more time and fuel by flying circles somewhere just to avoid a few clouds. So just headed straight through. I adjusted the mixture a little bit because I actually noticed that we were getting slower and the engine was running on lower RPM. And I thought, well, maybe as the conditions change I would have to adjust the mixture, but it wasn't getting any better, so I left it where it was. What was actually the most efficient. And there suddenly the clouds became less and we were on fresh air again, and I actually noticed that yes, in the clouds the plane is becoming slower. I don't know actually what it is, maybe just the friction with the humidity in the clouds, or it's that the humidity reduces the efficiency of the engine. Not really sure. Maybe also a mix of both. But we were over the clouds again, and just the right level, so 4,500 feet was the perfect adjustment which I did beforehand. And I also would let it stay there. I mean, I don't really want to burn fuel climbing to higher altitudes if you don't really have to. I'd actually like to descend again, but it's not possible, or at least I don't really want to not fly in the clouds too much. I also was really hoping that there were no clouds over the Faroe Islands, so we could see the islands and it would be nice weather, so it just looks nicer. And also saw these open bits there where you could see the water below us, and just as I was thinking that, there we are, the Faroe Islands on the horizon and the clouds clearing up. It was really a little bit like a scene from, I don't know, Jurassic World or something like that, where you're arriving at those islands in the middle of the water, just breaking through a storm. So yeah, this looks really nice. It seems like good weather over the Faroe Islands, which also would make the arrival easier, the landing, if we have a good view. So I was flying towards the islands and was really happy that the weather was good and slowly descending. And then I saw this, clouds over the Faroe Islands, and I thought like, no, we won't be able to see it, and they're really low. I thought like, no, there's gonna be like mist, we will have very low visibility and everything. So I started descending further, especially to be below the clouds, at least if it was possible. They don't look too thick, and was just really hoping that we could still see the islands and have a little bit of a view and not a difficult landing. But they were really thin, as you can see here, and you could easily see the island. So I thought, okay, it's probably not gonna be a problem, and here you can also see that they're quite high over the islands, so at landing we won't have any troubles. If we descend even further, we will even be able to see most of the Faroe Islands. Here I started looking around a little bit. I mean, it just looks beautiful. I was really happy that we could see the islands. What Microsoft Flight Simulator has to improve were these cliffs right there. I mean, those look horrible. If they can picture cliffs correctly, that would be awesome. Imagine how this place and also other places that really where cliffs are really part of the environment, like for example Ireland, how these places will look with correct cliffs. That would be amazing. So I hope they really work on that. Otherwise, beautiful landscape. And here we are in the last part of our flight, on final approach, just flying over the city of Vágar. Probably completely wrong, but that's the best I could do. Really looking nice here. Very beautiful. The lights show 4 white, so we're a little bit high. This always happens in my flights, I don't know why, but we're always high. And meanwhile the fuel warning, low fuel warning light has went on. But it's no problem, I mean we're landing right now. So that's absolutely fine. Leveling off a little bit, trying not to be too fast and not to smash the plane to the ground. Flaring slightly, and perfect. We have landed on Vágar airport on the Faroe Islands. I was just letting it roll out. We will take the taxiway here, which is I think the only connection to the terminal. Yep, a little bit fast, but it will do. Just drift along. No, just kidding. Taking a nice curve. Slowly rolling to our parking spot. And there on the right you can see that there are refueling stations. So I was trying to go there. And also trying not to drive over the grass. At least not too much. Also deviating a little bit from the yellow line, but there's no line to the refueling station. I don't know if that's what it always looks like, but it seems kind of strange, as you're supposed to stay on the lines most of the time. Just coming close here, turning, and perfect. So, for some reason, the first 2 times the parking brake was not deploying. So now doing everything that I did for starting the aircraft just backwards. I also forgot to turn off the taxi light and turn on the landing light, so we were flying with taxi light all the time. Not too much of a problem in the simulator. Flaps up, everything turn off. I don't know what's the absolutely correct procedure is to turn off the Cessna 172 with the G1000, but I just did everything that I did for the starting procedure in reverse, and there's our end screen. I don't know why Microsoft puts you into the screen, it's kind of annoying, because if I want to go out, we'll just go back to the menu. I can do that by myself, I don't have to get the screen here. And I was trying to see if we could actually call ground to order a refueling, but unfortunately Vágar Airport doesn't have ground in its communication menu. So we'll just cheat our refueling. I mean, we're just in front of the station, so we'll just imagine that we put the nozzle in and refuel to 100%, and that's it. But that's also the end of the video and the flight. Next flight, I'll try to do every flight in days, so like we will sleep here over the night and then we'll fly further. let's do it that way. And I have to decide what the next destination would be. So until then, thanks for watching and bye.